How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Box. It's Saturday kickoff. Fulham here at the Emirates, and I brought back Jack again on the channel from Fulhamish. What are you saying, Jack?
Good. Great to be back, man. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
No worries, man. No worries. And to be honest, Fulham's always a game that I enjoy. Not too.
I think you've enjoyed it more than we.
100% in recent times. 100% in recent times. But a lot's changed at Fulham. I mean, I say a lot. Losing Mitrovic was big this summer. And I want to start on that because Mitrovic was a player that caused problems, not just for Arsenal, but teams across the Premier League and Championship. We saw what he done in the Championship, breaking records. How big is that loss for you lot?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. Obviously, people are going to play it down and people are going to try and find the positives. And I think the fee's all right.
Yeah.
You know, 50 million for a 29-year-old who's had persistent ankle injuries.
True.
You can look at the positives and wonder if you're ever going to get that kind of fee for a player. But what Fulham lose in Mitrovic is not just a goal scorer. It's basically the fulcrum around what the whole team was built around.
Yeah.
And when you look around what Marcus Silva has tried to do in the Championship and then in the Premier League, Mitrovic is so key to all of those things. And I think one thing that you can't replace, you can find goal scorers as good as Mitrovic. And actually, technically, there's probably plenty of them.
Yeah.
But what you can't replace as easily, I think, is the aura that he had. He scared defenders. He was big, strong, fine. All of those things are fine. They're physical. You can find those traits. But there was something about Mitrovic that seemed to put the fear of God into certain defenders. And I think we saw that here last year, right? Where that first goal for Fulham, that he basically forced Gabriel into a mistake. You don't see Gabriel that rattled that often. That's Mitrovic in a nutshell. And actually, that's the bit I think Fulham are going to struggle to replace the most.
Even when you look from an opposition perspective, anytime Arsenal play Fulham or other teams play Fulham, the common question tended to be, how do you stop Mitrovic?
Yeah.
Stop Mitrovic, and then, you stop Fulham. It could be a blessing in disguise moving forward. And I think maybe Tottenham fans are in a similar situation where Kane had that aura, he had the status, he had the goals. Now they've moved on from him. It's hard to pinpoint their key threat. Like I'd say, it's hard to pinpoint your key threat. And that could be a blessing in disguise more than you may think.
Yeah, I mean, in the first two games, we haven't had a key threat, which is a slightly different issue.
That's not a blessing.
That's not a blessing. Yeah, that's very much a worry. And to be honest, coming into this game, look, there's elements of it that feel a bit free hitty. Like we've got Arsenal, and then we've got Tottenham in the cup, and then we've got City in this week.
Away as
so
well,
it's
right?
right, we might just write this, and then it's an international break.
Yeah.
So I think Fulham might go, right, we need to sort things out in the transfer market. We can basically see these as a couple of games where we can try and get something, but we're not expected to get anything. Rejig the squad. Look, Mitrovic has been the cloud that's carried over this summer. It's will he go, won't he go? Are we going to be able to keep him? Everyone's been up and down on it all summer. And that's the problem with it, is that the rest of the squad as well feel, where are we? What are we doing? Are we allowed to build around Mitrovic? Do we have to move away? So I think that what we'll see in these next two games is a bit of experimentation. And I wonder with that if Fulham are able to just unlock a little bit more, maybe out of the likes of Harry Wilson, maybe out of the likes of Willian, and maybe out of Andreas Pereira, who's got a different role now that Mitrovic isn't there leading the press, because Pereira had to lead the press with Mitrovic unable to do that. I wonder what that looks like now.
And you brought Jimenez in, and you mentioned, the transfer window's still open. What do you want Fulham to do? What do you expect Fulham to do in the next week and so?
Week, yeah. It's starting to get towards the end, isn't it? Panic stations. I think that what we've seen with, AC Milan, for example, this summer, is that they took a big sale, Sandro Tonali, and they replaced him with 5 players, and they were able to build the squad out far stronger than it had been before, without it hanging on one player. And actually,
West Ham similar, I think.
Exactly. And I think Tottenham will probably do the same. They're not going to look for a direct replacement. They're actually going to look for places they can build out to actually strengthen the team around them. And so when I'm looking at that, what I would like Fulham to do is go, right, we want to spend 20 million of that on a striker, maybe someone a little bit younger, got eyes on a few. Evangelos Pavlidis, I think, at RZ Alkmaar is the one that I really would like. But I think that if we can use that by a fullback, by a centre midfielder, maybe take another centre back in on loan, that's the kind of smart manoeuvres I would like to see Fulham do to build the squad, so it's not so much a focal point and it feels like a squad that has a little bit more, roundedness to it.
Well-rounded, that's what it sounds like. And in modern day football, I think that's the way the great teams and big teams go. Well-rounded, more so than getting a star man. Look at Arsenal now, Jack, and you're someone who supports Fulham, but you keep a close eye across most clubs. You're heavily invested in football. So what do you make of Arsenal? Last season, at the end, we finished second. A lot of people labelled it bottling it, choking, whatever you want to label it. It is what it is. We didn't win the league. We added Declan Rice this summer. We've added Havertz, Timber, who's unfortunately injured for the majority, so not much to to really say about him now. I think he's one for next season,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But with Havertz and Rice on top of a second place finish last year, what do you make of Arsenal's chances this season?
Yeah, look, I think we sat here last year and we talked about it, first game of the season, I think, at the Emirates, and we discussed, and I said, look, I'm hot on Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think you're going to do well. Now, I didn't think you were going to win the league.
Yeah.
So actually, as expectations go, I think you superseded what I thought was going to happen, and I was impressed with that squad throughout. And I think if you'd offered any Arsenal fan second before the season had begun, you would have taken it with both hands and run with it. So there's that to kind of consider. But I think that it's got stronger. Look, City have set such a high benchmark, right? We're in an era where 90 points no longer wins you the league.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly... And what I'm interested in is, the feeling around Arsenal when you won on Monday at Crystal Palace was such like relief almost. I was like, hang on, you've gone to Palace. 1-1, 0-0 would have been a fine result at Palace, but it feels like every game you need to win now. And that's the kind of pressure that I'm intrigued to see what happens with Arsenal this year. Last year, the first sort of 6-7 games, it felt like, okay, we're riding a wave. This is fun, but there's still levels of expectation are pretty low.
Yeah, 100%.
This year, that's very different. It's like, right, we've gone out, we've come second, we've spent a lot of money in the transfer market. Now it is a challenge or nothing. And so I think you will. I think you'll challenge. I don't know if anyone can overhaul this City team. They feel almost irresistible at times to me, and just the way that they're able to rotate through players out doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal have more of that this season. Key injuries, I think, derailed things at different points for Arsenal last year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen again, and I think that Rice has looked really composed, was brilliant, I thought, against Palace on Monday. But the fact that Nketiah has grown into that role up top, the fact that he was so lively and he felt a little bit Jesus-like, I thought, in that game, really did hassle Harry, all the things that Jesus brings to the party.
The turns around the defender.
And I really like Havertz as long as you're not playing him as a number 9. I was really hot on him before he went to Chelsea. I watched a lot of him at Leverkusen. Those late runs into the box, those ghosting abilities, that kind of Thomas Muller vibe that I always used to get off him. We saw very little of that at Chelsea, where he was used in a role that I don't think ever suited him. If Arteta has a plan, and I think he does, because I think Mikel Arteta is a very smart human being, that he's going to be trying to get Havertz bursting into the box, making those late darts, and becoming that kind of second striker in a way that he was never used at Chelsea. I think his ceiling's really high this season, and I'm kind of looking forward to his redemption arc.
Yeah, well, listen, so am I as an Arsenal fan. I hope it happens. But you mentioned the comparisons to the start of last season, where there was little expectation for us to do anything at the top of the league, to this season where there's a lot of expectation. And am I right in thinking that for you it's more the mental side now that we have to prove, more so than the quality? Because I think the quality is there. We saw it across the most of last season, but I think the mental side and maybe depth was the problem towards the end.
I was going to say, I think the quality was there in the first team. The drop-off was massive. That seems to have been addressed as far as I'm concerned with the work that they've done. I'm really upset about Timber. Brilliant footballer. And really thought he was going to work. But I'm intrigued to see what happens now at the fullbacks, because obviously we've seen Thomas Partey playing that right-back role, moving into midfield, whilst used a more kind of traditional fullback in Timber, and then also in Tomiyasu. Zinchenko probably comes back in, and I think KT's time is over here, very sadly. I love that guy.
So do
but I think that if Zinchenko comes back in, does it involve a shuffle back across? That means that Ben White goes back to right back, plays a more traditional role. Zinchenko then inverts into the midfield, and Gabriel gets back in the side, because splitting up that partnership, I think they played 73 games in a row together. Or, it felt like a huge kind of thing to drop Gabriel. His influence on the last end of that Crystal Palace game was massive, and I think you saw the team kind of rally around him as well, which was nice. But I think that if Zinchenko comes back in, that could be the flip here. And that's actually what I think might be really interesting for us from this season. That ability to switch wings, that they're kind of inverting, the ability to rotate in the middle, use someone like Havertz at times, use a Rice Party shield at times when things are a little bit dark.
100%.
All of that, I think, adds to the Arsenal thing. So now it does become whether the capacity is there mentally to go and challenge. I think it is. I think that what we saw at the end of last season was a kind of natural drop-off from tiredness, from a lack of rotation, all of those things, I think, more than any sort of mental capacity for failure. I think that's a thing that's going to be spun out by other fans. Always is, right? All those things are always going to be spun out, because that's the kind of thing you dish out, and therefore that's the kind of thing you have to take back in kind. So with all of that said, I think that this is going to be a good year for Arsenal. I think you get closer to City. I'm still wary of the idea that actually you can go and challenge them for like that full top spot, but I think you'll be the closest of the pack.
Closest to the pack, so we'll see. That's a top 2 finish you're predicting for us. You're bang on in terms of looking at the game this weekend. Zinchenko will come back in with Timber, and now Tomiyasu suspended. What does he do with the right back situation? Does Partey stay there? A lot of people think the long-term vision is to have a double inverted fullback in the side, where they're both inverting at different points in the game.
I think that leaves you short like flying around the winger and
Yeah.
just offering those kind of options. We know Bukayo likes to come in onto that left foot without a natural right back there. 100%. I do wonder if you make him less effective.
100%, because I was just mentioning to James on the preview that if you look at the squad last season, the first 11 and the first 11 now, every bit of our transition has changed. In midfield, we've added Rice, and Partey is inverting in from a fullback position.
Yeah.
On the left side, Martinelli was used to Zinchenko and Xhaka as the 8. So far this season, it's been Timber and Tomiyasu and Havertz as the 8. On Saka's side, he's used to a Ben White overlap. This season, he hasn't had that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I do expect him to go back to the Zinchenko, Gabriel Saliba and Ben White back 4. What will then be interesting is, does it become a midfield three of Rice, Partey, Odegaard? Or is it a midfield three of Rice, Havertz, Odegaard? And I think against Fulham at home, I expect it to be the latter.
Yeah, agreed.
A bit more of an attacking look to the midfield. But that is the big question for us Arsenal fans, so we'll find out soon enough. This season, Arsenal, looking at De Bruyne out 4 months, you said we'll be in and around the conversation come the end of the season. Champions League football back as well. I mean, from what we done last season, what outside looking in, what is the bare minimum from Arsenal to say that we have kicked on from last season? Because a lot will say you finished second, so to kick on will be first. But with Man City in the league, always favourites, it's hard to really use that as the measuring stick.
Yeah, agreed. I think you stay in there and consolidate. I think Champions League, you need to get through the group stages. But apart from that, I think that you can look at that. The Champions League is such a, it's a box of tricks, right?
Yeah.
You could win the group, be flying and draw Bayern Munich, who randomly come second in a second.
Oh, we'll get in Bayern because Kane's there now. We'll get in Bayern.
So, I think that you can always look at knockout competitions differently. I think the thing is consolidation, consistency in the league. Can you be up there and around there in April, again in a title race? I think that's growth.
Yeah.
And I think that even though last year felt like a surprise, this year can't feel like a surprise. It has to feel like we're there and we're thereabouts for the entire season. So I think that's growth, and those are the things you build. This is a young team.
Yeah.
You can build this for 2 years out. I think there's Liverpool, what? How long did it take after that first rebuild and revamp to actually get to the top and topple City?
Yeah.
It took a while. I think Arsenal are on the same kind of path.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Rice signing and I compare it to the Van Dijk and Alisson signings, where it seemed like that's the last piece of the jigsaw and we went all in for it. But like we mentioned, Man City are in the league, Pep's in the league, they're always favourites.
Exactly.
But what I expect is more points and less goals conceded.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the stats from last season, we scored a hell of a lot of goals. We conceded a hell of a lot of goals. And I think that's what cost us. With Rice coming in, I think that aids defensively for sure, more than it does offensively. But we'll see, Jack. We'll see. Saturday, 3 p.m. We are the home team. So I'm going to go for a prediction first. And I do think it'll be a win. I think it'll be a comfortable win. And I think it should be a big win. A lot will say Forest and Palace were comfortable. I tend to agree we was in control, but going down to 10 men against Palace, it did set the nerves off a little bit. But I think against Fulham 3-0. I'm tempted to say 4, but I'm just going to go with a 3 and be humble.
I think it's a sensible prediction, and I hate saying that myself. We're looking at trying to work this out and trying to see where Fulham are right now with our position in the season. I struggle with saying that. I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to say that our defensive line has been the best part of this season so far. It has been. Bernd Leno, most
against Everton,
impressed again. He just feels like that guy for Fulham, and he's so crucial to the way this team work. We do give up a lot of chances. He is that last line of defence. I think that last year we saw Tete and Robinson have really good games against Martinelli and Saka respectively. I worry that this is a new Fulham team gelling. Palhinha might be back. That might be the saving grace. If he's back, I'm going to go 1-0, but 1-0 to Arsenal.
1-0 to Arsenal. All right then, Jack, tell them where they can find you.
I'm Jack Collins. You can find me at Jack J Collins on Twitter, or X now, or the Ranks FC podcast. That'd be great.
There you go, people. We'll tag the channel in the title as well. Make sure you support Jack. We'll put the rest of the socials in the description below. So show some love to Jack as always. Jack, it's been a pleasure.
Mate, it's been a class. Thank you so much for having me.
Good luck after Saturday. People, let us know your predictions, lineups, thoughts. Actually, key man, before we wrap it up, sorry, production there at the back is about to press the red button. Key man, who should Arsenal look out for in the Fulham? Because usually it's Mitrovic.
I think it's Andreas Pereira.
I thought so.
I think that, if Palhinha's back, Palhinha is key, but in terms of a threat, I think Pereira from set pieces, his ability to deliver from different angles, different areas,
Ghost into spaces.
He is maybe Fulham's best attacking threat now. So I'll go Andres Pereira.
And who do you need to keep quiet? Who's the one Arsenal player that you...
Which one?
Well, this is the question for you. Which one do you pick? Which one is the one that you worry about most?
Well, I think that our fullbacks are strong, and so I'm okay in those areas. I'm not 100% sure that how Calvin Bassey coming in on a debut, Tim Ream suspended. Yeah. We both have a soft yellow card suspension.
If we
from
get
last
onto
week.
referees now, we'll be here another.
We'll be here another hour.
Minutes. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how he gets on. He's quick. He's really strong. He's got great recovery pace in behind. So him versus Nketiah, I think it's going to be a good battle. Okay. I'm worried about Havertz, ex-Chelsea man, ghosting into hurt Fulham. That will be a problem.
There we go. That's the first, people, on Box to Box. Jack is the first to say Havertz is the key man for him, that they have to keep quiet in order to get something out of the Emirates. Let us know your thoughts. Is Pereira the key man for Fulham in your eyes? Is Havertz the key man for us in Fulham fans' eyes? Let us know. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed and show some love to Jack. Love for the love, people. We're out. Peace.